And we are live. The Detroit Pistons fall to the Milwaukee Bucks 127 to 120 after leading by as much as 18 points. Cade Cunningham had 35. Giannis Antetokounmpo had 59 points. So then, and by the way, the Bucks needed every last bit of them. But yet again, the free throw disparity between the Pistons and the Milwaukee Bucks just absolutely asinine. Giannis Antetokounmpo himself shot 17 free throws. The Pistons as a team shot 13. The Bucks as a team shot 25. So almost double the free throw attempts, but ultimately it was costly turnovers, missed free throws, and blown opportunities that made the Pistons fall short. I am Sean Murphy, joined by what is now becoming a regular, which I am not complaining about whatsoever, my guy, Steve, host of the Resball Pod. Steve, it's good to see you, my friend. How are you doing tonight? What are some of
Little,
your thoughts coming off of the Pistons OT loss to the Milwaukee Bucks?
little bummed out, but I mean that's what happens when you have Giannis. And Giannis hit like 7 jumpers, including one 3-point shot. And especially when that three happened, it's like, all right, it's over. There's nothing you can do. If he's hitting jumpers, there's literally nothing you can
It's
do.
wraps at that point.
Yeah, even when he's hitting those middies, like they just gave it to him all night, which that should be the game plan. Anytime he wants to shoot jumpers, yes, absolutely let him shoot jumpers. Nobody's going to foul him. He's not going to get to the line. There's not going to be many nights where he sinks them like this, unless like
Mhm.
somehow he just magically turns that around this year. So I mean, that's it is what it is there. The two things I will touch on very quick, you got to feel for Ron Holland there at the end. I think
Yep.
the nerves got him. You texted me, that's his welcome to the NBA moment. I definitely think so. I do feel like they shouldn't have gone away from him in overtime because they put Sasser in there, and like I don't want to see Sasser dribbling in overtime. Thank you very much. Even though he did it the big shot at the end, I'd rather have Ron's defense and energy and help him to get his confidence and things back there at the end. So you got to feel for the kid. And the other thing is like, I've criticized Duran up and down. This is Stu's night. Stupid. Get ready to blank me. You ready to beat me?
Oh yeah.
If I were Kate or one of his teammates, I would immediately come into the locker room and be like, "Hey, do you think you could have made a difference tonight out in that close game?" And when he's like, "Yeah," I would have been like, "Okay, well then don't do stupid anymore like that." Like you were playing good. That's the thing too. You were
Yeah.
playing very good. We needed you, and I would be like, if you want to put the loss on anybody, we're putting it on you because of stupid things like that. Like you can't be doing these cheap things. You got to realize the refs hate you. Everybody hates you. Did you hear all those boos when you went out? Because they already think that's what you are, and you're just proving them right. If you do that again, like, why should we trust you?
Yeah, he's garnered a reputation at this point. He's not going to get the benefit of the doubt from the officials. So definitely one of those fouls where, Isaiah Stewart, for a guy who's a really smart basketball player, for someone who's, well loved and respected in the locker room, and someone, that's probably been, not probably, he has been their best rim protector this season. Just a really poor lapse of judgment there by Stu. And,
And he was doing
obviously,
great on Giannis. He's done great on Giannis.
yeah.
I remember an instructor once long ago, and I tell my students this all the time because I'm an English teacher. I normally grade papers, and I'm like, if your paper sucks, you will know because they'll write one-word comments on it. If you're good, then they mark it up and down. That's why I'm so mad at Stu because he's good. Like with Dern, when he got his fourth foul, I was like, I'm not even mad. Like I expect that at this point. But with Stu, it's like, no, you're too smart. You're too good. This team has a negative margin for error. We can't miss you at all, dude.
Yeah. I do think, even though like I agree that Ron was probably, good, playing well enough to like be on the court in overtime. I think just from like a mental standpoint, I think he could have probably tried to make up for those free throws a little bit too much. We've seen, Ron's a very emotional player, which don't get me wrong, like, you're okay with that, but in those moments, we saw the emotion already starting to get to the best of them. And listen, I get the criticisms, the Pistons were, if he just made one free throw, the game's over. I understand that, but I think what people are, don't understand. And I tweeted this out because like someone's like, well, you don't need experience to shoot from the free throw line. And what I said is, if you think there's no difference between shooting a free throw in a G League gym in front of maybe 1,000 people and shooting a free throw in a sold out 18,000 person arena on national television or broadcasted to, the entire nation pretty much with League Pass and also accessible on social media. I don't know what to tell you. Like, yes, he needs to be better in those moments, but you know why he needs to be better in those moments? Because because it's his 12th career game and he's 19 years old. And listen, I think overall for his first start, I thought Ron Holland actually played a really good game tonight. And like the reason why I am being defensive for him is because there's still a lot to like. Like, yes, you can criticize him, like you can say like Ron choked, yes, but that's not like the main reason the Pistons lost this game tonight. Like you mentioned, like there's the Isaiah Stewart flagrant. There's just the disastrous third quarter with the turnovers, with the offense completely stalling. I do think some of it was pretty unsustainable with, Malik Beasley going at the level that he did. I mean, he was just a flamethrower at the beginning of the game. And, him going, at that rate just to me wasn't very sustainable. I will say they needed a lot more from Tobias Harris tonight. And, I know he played heavy minutes. I know it's the second night of a back to back. We've talked about how stable and consistent he's been. But when you're without Jaden Ivey, when you're without Simone Fontecchio, like when you're without multiple pieces, these are the nights when you need your veterans to step in and fill that role. And he was 4-15 tonight. And, I know he's getting guarded by Giannis. I know, it's like a difficult matchup and things like that. He made some decent plays on the defensive side of the ball. I will say Cade had 3 blocks tonight on top of his 35 points. I thought Cade had a really good game, especially down the stretch there at the end. Yes, there were some turnovers, but especially tonight, like it was all on Cade's shoulders essentially at the end there. So, again, I know people are going to look at Ron in the missed free throws, but to me, there were just so many compounding factors, and the fact that they were even in that situation to shoot those free throws was pretty asinine to begin with.
If anybody choked, I would say it's Beasley. Like, what happened to him in the fourth and in overtime? He was like not even there when he was trash talking all that stuff. Part of it's like the team not looking for him, but I think he also kind of ran out of gas and wasn't doing enough. If there was somebody on offense to like not point the finger at, but say like choked, it's Beasley. Like Beasley no showed, and that's why Cade again had to do so much there at the end and stop anybody that's going to be like, oh, Cade's not whatever. Oh, Cade's bad. He had 35. 7 rebounds, 11 assists. Like, what else do you want him to do? Like, he's literally doing everything. He made Wendell Moore get shots at the rim. He made Wendell Moore hit a clutch 3-pointer because he got him wide open shots on both of those things. And Sasser hit that 3 to tie it up because everybody's freaking out over Cade and nobody picked up Sasser. Cade is the maestro. He can play all over the court. And those inbound passes that JB has him throw to, you think like, well, they need him in there. But you know what? We've seen 2 really good teams. Well, I mean, the Bucks. I guess you can't say they're a really good team this year.
Right, right.
The Heat and the Bucks both panic because they're like Cade's inbounding it. We have no idea where this ball is going anymore. I hope they don't just keep like spamming this lob play because people figure it out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And if I'm being quite honest, like they caught a break with getting the foul call on Giannis.
Yes.
I thought it was just good awareness by him.
Yep.
But again, Cade does everything, man. It's just tonight just proves if you have Malik Beasley as like your second leading scorer, you are not going to win many games.
Yep. And listen, 13 for 34. I understand if you're solely looking at that part of the box score, you would say, wow, Cade had a bad night. But if you actually scroll like 2 inches on the ESPN app and view the rest of the box score, you see the 11 assists, you see the 7 rebounds, you see the 3 blocks, you see the 2 steals. Cade's effect was literally all over the court tonight. When you throw
he was 5 of 10 from 3-point range. That's what we've all been wanting to, right?
Right. Like if you're not satisfied with that type of Cade performance, I don't really know what to tell you. Especially with no JI, especially with pretty much no support from the rest of his starting
2
cast.
Steals, 3 blocks. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, for sure. And Jalen Duren, it was just, another rough night for him, especially when, when Isaiah Stewart was out of the game and a lot of the pressure was on Duren to, really.
And Duren had 5 turnovers. Sorry, I'm going off tonight, but Duren had 5 turnovers. Where's everybody getting pissed off at him?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, on top of the 5 turnovers, no blocks. He had some shots where he deterred a little bit at the rim, but just his kryptonite's the backdoor lob. It feels like almost any time it's thrown, on Jalen Duren. It's an easy dunk. It's an easy throwdown for the other team. We saw it with Bam Adebayo last night. We saw it with Brook Lopez tonight. So, just again, just not the best night from him. Paul Reed, he came in, he played 6 minutes, but he got 3 fouls pretty quickly. It was pretty apparent that defensively he was overmatched in this one. I will say I do want to give quick credit to Wendell Moore and Marcus Sasser, who are two guys who are not in the rotation, but they both came in and hit really big shots down the stretch at the end of the game. Marcus Sasser in particular, that leaning three that tied the game towards the end of the fourth quarter was absolutely insane. I'm not saying that, this is going to be a thing where, they're going to be in the rotation or this is like a big launching pad moment for them, but it says a lot for two young players that they stayed ready, that they came in and were asked to make a significant contribution in a big moment, and they were able to do so. And that's a credit not only to them as players, but also that's a credit to the coaching staff.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime the young guys that haven't gotten any shine come in and just do what they need to. So that's the thing. Nobody's like telling them to get all this usage or whatever. They did what they need to. They're still like plus minus. I take it or leave it as a stat, but I mean, like Wendell Moore's minus 17, Sasser's minus 14. That kind of tells you like the other side of the story with defensive. But I mean, again, the foundation of this defense is broken without Stewart in there. And to get Paul Reed came in and just couldn't handle it. So it's really hard to ask the guys to come in and do anything when one of them in particular is undersized and always been picked on. The other thing about them too is like it's just a lesson to other people. If you're an adequate NBA player, Cade Cunningham will get you points, will get you shots. Just do your job, man.
Yeah, for sure. Brook Lopez was another guy who really got it going for Milwaukee. It was really, Giannis had it going all night, but once he started getting the contributions from Brook Lopez, from Taurean Prince, from Gary Trent Jr., that's really kind of when the lid blew off, so to speak. And, they were able to, really get back in the game. They scored 38 points in that third quarter. And, once they got that scoring spree going, once Isaiah, really committed that poor foul on Giannis that got the crowd back into the game, like that was really kind of when the dynamic of this game completely shifted. And again, they were up by 18 points. I mean, if I'm a Milwaukee Bucks fan, if I'm being honest with you, like, what before, when the Pistons were winning this game, my thought process was going to be, was this a credit to the Pistons or is this an indictment on the Milwaukee Bucks? I will say, like, if I'm a Bucks fan, I still don't feel super great about going to overtime with an extremely shorthanded Pistons team. And it took Giannis scoring 59 points for us to be able to pull out the win. Like, I'm not feeling great about that, like for the Pistons, like the fact that they made it this type of game, credit to them. But, again, like as we talked about last night, like with the fourth quarter issues and execution and bringing your best energy and your best effort at that point, like that's we see over and over again. Those second half lapses are really what's putting this team behind the eight ball, so to speak.
Yeah, and shout out to Kofi on Twitter at KOFIE Kofi. He
Of
says
Kofi.
if your center is a stretch big, you're going to beat the Pistons. That continues to remain true with Duren. The last I checked, Duren's defensive field goal percentage against 3-pointers is 40.9%. And Brook Lopez was 5 of 8 tonight, so it probably went up even further. Like he just cannot guard on the perimeter. And every stretch five has just made him look like a fool so far. So that's a big part of it. And gee, when did Brook start going? Oh, like in the third and fourth quarter. And then in overtime too.
Mm-hmm. And, again, I see fans, upset, and I understand, you lose a game that was, very much within arm's reach. But I mean, if we actually if we actually zoom out and take a look at where this team's at, they're 5-8. Just about every single game, save the Cleveland game, has been competitive. And Cleveland is the team that still hasn't lost yet. So you feel pretty good about that. A couple of things get switched around. We could be talking about a team right now that's like, instead of 5-8, they could be 7-6 or 8-5. So, I think they're right on par or right on course for where you want them to be. I think there's pretty clear. I think you're starting to get some pretty clear identity, or you're starting to clearly identify where you need to make changes and where improvement needs to be had. and assuming things don't change, I think we are going to see some changes, particularly in that big man rotation and in that big man room. I'm curious, how Trajan Langdon is viewing this team. And listen, trade season in the NBA, we still got about another month. A lot of contracts over the summer become tradable. I think normally the date is December 15th. So once that date hits, I think a lot of things will be interesting. I saw Walker Kessler was a guy that was brought up in the chat. I wonder if he's someone that will probably go to the Lakers, but I think he would be a really good addition for Detroit as well. We've brought up Nick Claxton as someone that potentially be a good center, but I just think really the point is they just need better play from that position, and their ceiling is always going to be inherently limited with Isaiah Stewart being your best rim protector. I've been saying that from game one, and I still think I think that's the state of the team, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. They still need like a tall center. Shout out to people in the comments here. Case Crack brought up Walker Kessler. I mean, I agree, but I'm also absolutely frightened to trade with Danny Ainge. He wants like every last first round pick that you have. I think it was Rab that brought up Ryan Kalkbrenner in the draft. I love Ryan Kalkbrenner, but I mean, he's probably like 24 come draft night. And then Derek Brown asked, hey, Steve, who's a realistic center we could get in the future? Kaman Malawak, who's at Duke, 7'2", 250. Like he's probably the highest rated or at least the highest upside guy. I don't know if he would go top 5. He's probably a lottery pick when all is said and done, but multi-year project. I'm not going to lie there. The guy I quite like is Asa Newell, who's playing at Georgia right now, kind of a hustle guy. Maybe can stretch the floor, like he's kind of doing those things, but he was Montvert's rim protector for like Cooper Flagg and Derek Queen and all those guys. Rocco Zakarski playing down for Brisbane. He's 7'3", 227. I forgot to list. Asa Newell's like 6'10", 210, somewhere around there. I mean, Rocco's super raw, but I mean, 7'3", 227, natural shot blocker. He's probably the closest thing to like a Walker Kessler that we have out there, but he is still super raw on offense. I don't know exactly what he would do in the NBA yet. And then some guys, along with Ryan Kalkbrenner, further down in like late first round, early second, would be my guy JT Money, JT Toppin, who's playing at Texas Tech. He was a Lobo, and I'm from New Mexico. That's where he played last year, but starting off the year pretty hot, blocking shots, getting steals, stretching out a little bit. Super athletic guy. Big Z, Zonomir Ivisic at Arkansas. Probably something like Ivata or Zubac from the Clippers. Along those lines, 7'2", 234. Then my guy here in Tucson, I'm located in Tucson, Arizona, Montejuice Krivas, 7'2", 260. Another just big dude that knows how to set screens and is a load and he can't move. Because that's the kind of guy I think the Pistons need. If they could shoot threes, fantastic. But like the Zubac kind of guy or like Jakob Poeltl, that type of dude that just sets screens and is big and blocks shots, that's really what the team needs.
Steve, you're a sicko, and I mean that as the greatest compliment. I see someone posted in here. Did you forget about last season, Jalen, when Duren was a 2020 machine? He had 3 games where he had 20 points and 20 rebounds. He had games where he was pretty close to that as well. But the point with Jalen Duren is it's never been about the offensive production. We've seen moments where he can be effective as a lob threat. We've seen moments where he when you get him the ball, down in the low post where he can make things happen. But this year, objectively speaking, in all areas of his game, we've seen regression. As we broke down in last night's live stream, we went over his turnover rate and how it's one of the worst in the league, especially for someone who's a big and doesn't really have the ball very much, especially compared to other players on the court. And then you just throw in the lapses as a rim protector, where this team needs that stability the most currently. I think again, Steve, I know we both have been very high on Jalen Duren in the past, and we've talked about how we want to see those improvements, and if those improvements are there, we're talking about one of the best bigs in basketball. But objectively speaking, there has just not been much improvement from day one until today.
Yeah, when your pick and roll lob threat guy has 5 fouls and 5 turnovers at the end of the night, and he only got 3 shots, I think is what he ended up 4 shots, 4 total shots all night. Like, come on, man.
Mm-hmm. Again, there's still time, but when you're talking about a Pistons team who, again, has been going through as many struggles as they have, who the the extension for Cade Cunningham's about to kick in. You're about to have to pay Jaden Ivey. This season's about identifying who you move forward with and who you're confident in. And if you're still having those questions, there's only so long that a team with so many young prospects can wait for guys to continue to develop, especially when you have players who are ready to take that next step, not only in their careers, but with the organization. Like, that's just the reality of this thing. That's the tightrope you walk.
Yeah, the thing that I said at the beginning of the season, we're on Cade Cunningham's timeline now. If you don't
Mhm.
help Cade, you got to go. It's just at that point now where, like, sure, maybe you can move Duren to the bench. I agree with that. But again, even Stu, I think it's not enough for your starting center, in my opinion. They either have to be somebody like Claxton who spams pick and roll, or if Stu did shoot threes, which, I mean, we'll save that for another time. But if there was somebody like an Al Horford type that, like 12 points or whatever, and half of those come from beyond the arc, then it's a different story. But man, and I asked this with that Irvin Piston fan at the beginning of the season, like, what realistically can you see Duren or Stu like develop that makes them better than where they are currently right now on offense?
Right. And really with Isaiah Stewart, it's, it's the 3-point shot, but it's pretty clear, it's just pretty, it's objectively clear that's just not a priority for Isaiah Stewart currently. He hit a three tonight, he shot 1 3 and he hit it. But I mean, like, that's really about it this season thus far. They've been having him play much more in the low post, and,
I think
Jalen
that's his
Duren.
only 3-point make all year, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. And, Duren, yes, you could think about the potential of him adding a shot of some form. But again, I've talked about this before. If Jalen Duren is as an offensive player and just becomes the rim protector we all know he can be, we're not even having this conversation, if I'm being honest with you, because there are just still so many things about him as a lob threat. I will say, I think the days of relying on him to be like a significant passing threat. Like, yeah, he had 6 assists tonight, but I just don't think that that's, currently, especially when Jaden Ivey comes back, I just don't think that's, sustainable keeping him with the ball in his hands that much, since he is one of your significant, significant sources of turnovers. He just is.
He had a turnover within the first 12 seconds of this game. Like in the game notes, that's the first thing I put down on this game. It's just like, come on, man. Like, you got to be kidding me.
Yep. Yep. I agree with that. So, again, this isn't like a Jalen Duren bash session, but when people, again, you can't say, oh, this team needs to take the next step. But then when you talk about trading young players, no, you can't trade him. Like, you can't have your cake and eat it too, is I think what really Steve and I are trying to say.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. I mean, even with the Isaiah Stewart thing, even the players we like, as much as I like Ivy and want him to be a keeper, as much as I like Asar and Ron and all them, like if they got the right player, then yeah, you got to do it.
mhm, exactly. So the next game for the Pistons is going to be on Friday. They will be traveling to Toronto to face the Raptors for their next game in the NBA Cup. Scotty Barnes is currently been dealing with injury issues. Emmanuel Quickly has been dealing with injury issues. They have all sorts of guys, who are sidelined right now. So
You know what
uh,
they do have though? They got a whole lot of dick.
they they got Dick up and down, man. He is everywhere. Grady Dick has been playing phenomenally
Yeah,
this
man,
season.
great.
Yep. RJ Barrett has his moments as well where he can be pretty decent. So certainly not someone that you can sag off of. But the Raptors are 2-10. So to say that that's a winnable game for the Pistons is an understatement. And if they can move 2-0 in the NBA Cup standings, that's pretty good momentum for them. So, again, we talked about it last night about how I think that, especially for young teams, that's something that can be, a real benefit. And, with the Pistons, I think that would be some really good experience for them. So, really good, really, last couple of nights, Steve, as far as intrigue, as far as drama, as far as the insane finishes, the Pistons have had the craziest finishes in the league over the last couple of nights. I mean, just surreal stuff.
Funny what a year will do when you get a coach that actually like uses their personnel properly, and
Yeah.
the other guys take a step forward and like fight. which I think is kind of synergetic. When your stupid coach, comes in the next day and film and either doesn't want to, or like it's like, oh, you're getting benched, and you don't really know the reason. Like, you don't want to fight for that
Right.
guy, and you don't really like put things together. And the out of bounds plays that have been drawn up the last 2 nights, I don't think Monty ever did that kind of stuff, man.
No. No. I really can't think of, creative out of bounds plays really since the first couple of years of Dwayne Casey. Like I think the Blake Griffin, fake dribble handoff to get the and one against Philly. That's really the last time I remember out of bound plays like that. So yeah, it's some good stuff overall for the Pistons, some really competitive games. And even though that this is another loss and another difficult crunch time game, it's still another, overall, I'd say it's a pretty good performance. So with that, Steve, thanks again for being here. Be sure you go and follow him at ResballPod. You can follow him on X. You can follow him is it Blue Sky? Am I saying that right? And then it's
So Blue
Threads.
Sky now,
Yep.
Instagram,
Yep.
Twitter. I have YouTube, but I don't post there quite that often. That might change in the future. We'll see.
Yeah, I just hope we all collectively pick one at some point, just as a society. Like we just had we just had an election, so let's have a little bit of a break. But maybe like in April, we all just come together and then we just collectively vote as a society which app we're going to be moving forward with.
Yeah,
And
I kind of sense the people on Blue Sky like go there because they don't like Twitter, and then they'll kind of be their own thing. So we'll see.
yeah,
Shout out to Piston Mike in the comments, by the way. Piston Mike on YouTube as well. Go follow him.
yep, yep, absolutely. But also be sure you subscribe here to the channel and don't miss any of the uploads we have. Just put a link in the chat from the podcast episode that uploaded today, right before the game. So be sure you go and check that out. But that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for joining another post game live stream. We'll catch you next time here from Half Court. Be sure you subscribe.